When discussing the Arabs prior to the advent of Islam, we find it essential to sketch a brief overview of the political leadership, tribal governance, sectarian divisions, and religious influences among the Arab peoples, in order to better comprehend the prevailing conditions at the time of Islam's emergence. As the dawn of Islam broke, Arabian leadership fell into two categories: monarchs bearing crowns, who lacked true autonomy, and tribal and clan chieftains, who wielded equivalent powers and prerogatives to those of crowned rulers and maintained largely independent status, although some demonstrated varying degrees of allegiance to a reigning monarch. Only the rulers of Yemen, Hira, and Ghassan held crowned positions. All remaining Arabian leaders governed without formal royal titles. The Shiban people represented among the most ancient of the pure Arab tribes, establishing themselves in Yemen. Archaeological excavations at Ur revealed evidence of their presence dating back 25 centuries before Christ. Their culture prospered, and their territory expanded 11 centuries before the Christian era. Their historical periods can be categorized according to this framework: the era preceding 650 BC, when their sovereigns bore the title Makrib Sheba. Their seat of power was Sarwa, alternatively called Kriba, whose remnants are located at a day's journey from the western approach to Marib. Throughout this epoch, they commenced construction of the Marib Dam, which held tremendous significance in Yemeni history. The Shiban realm reportedly extended so vastly that they established settlements both within and beyond the Arabian Peninsula. The period spanning 650 BC to 115 BC. During this timeframe, they abandoned the title Makrib and adopted the designation Kings of Sheba. They also relocated their capital from Sarwa to Marib. The remnants of Marib are situated approximately 60 miles eastward from Sana'a. The era from 115 BC through 300 AD. Throughout this phase, the Himyarite tribe overtook the Shiban kingdom and established Redan as their capital in place of Marib. Subsequently, Redan became known as Zafar. Its remains continue to exist on Mutawar Mountain near the settlement of Yerim. This period marked the beginning of their deterioration and collapse. Their commercial activities suffered tremendously due to three primary factors: first, Nabatean control over northern Hijaz; second, Roman dominance of maritime trading routes following their conquest of Egypt, Syria, and northern Hijaz; and third, intertribal conflicts. These three elements led to the fragmentation and dispersal of the Cottonite families. The period from 300 AD until Islam's arrival in Yemen. This era was characterized by extensive chaos and upheaval. Numerous civil conflicts left the Yemeni population vulnerable to foreign domination and subsequent loss of sovereignty. During this time, Romans seized Adn and assisted the Abyssinians, Ethiopians, in their initial occupation of Yemen in 340 AD, exploiting the ongoing tribal disputes between Hamdan and Himyar. The Ethiopian rule over Yemen continued until 378 AD, after which Yemen recovered its independence. Subsequently, structural weaknesses appeared in the Marib Dam, resulting in the Great Deluge, 450 or 451 AD, referenced in the Holy Quran. In 523, Dhu Nawaz, who was Jewish, launched a major military expedition against the Christians of Najran to compel their conversion to Judaism. When they refused, they were cast alive into a massive pit filled with blazing fire. The Quran makes reference to this incident: "Cursed were the people of Ditch." Al-Quran 85:4. This incident provoked tremendous fury among Christians, particularly the Roman emperors, who not only incited the Abyssinians, Ethiopians, against the Arabs but also mobilized a substantial naval force that aided the Ethiopian army of 70,000 soldiers in achieving a second occupation of Yemen in 525 AD. This conquest was led by Ariad, who was appointed as Yemen's ruler, a role he maintained until his assassination by one of his military commanders, Abraha. Following his reconciliation with the Abyssinian king, Abraha assumed control over Yemen and subsequently dispatched his forces to destroy Al-Qaba, earning him and his troops the designation, Companions of the Elephant. Following that elephant episode, the Yemeni population, led by Ma'd-Karib bin Saif Dhu Yazan al-Himyari and with Persian support, rebelled against the Ethiopian occupiers, regained their freedom, and installed Ma'd-Karib as their monarch. Nevertheless, Ma'd-Karib was murdered by an Ethiopian whom he had kept as a servant and bodyguard. The Dhu Yazan dynasty was consequently stripped of royal authority permanently. Kisra, the Persian monarch, designated a Persian governor over Sana'a, thereby transforming Yemen into a Persian province. Persian administrators continued to govern Yemen until Badhan, their final ruler, converted to Islam in 638 AD, thereby ending Persian sovereignty over Yemen. From the time Cyrus the Great, 557 to 529 BC, consolidated Persian power, they governed Iraq and its surrounding regions. No force could challenge their dominance until Alexander the Great defeated their monarch Darius I and conquered the Persians in 326 BC. Persian territories were subsequently partitioned and governed by rulers referred to as the sectarian kings, an epoch that persisted until 230 AD. During this interval, the Catanians seized certain Iraqi lands, followed later by some Adnanians who succeeded in sharing portions of Mesopotamia with them. The Persians, led by Ardashir who founded the Sassanid dynasty in 226 AD, recovered sufficient cohesion and strength to subjugate the Arabs residing near their realm, compelling Quaid-e-Azam to migrate to Syria while placing the inhabitants of Hira and Anbar under Persian control. During Ardashir's reign, Juzaima al-Wada held authority over Hira, Rabi'a, Madar, and Mesopotamia. Ardashir realized that direct Arab governance was unfeasible and that preventing their border raids required appointing one of their own who possessed tribal backing and influence as king. He also recognized their potential utility against the Byzantine rulers who constantly troubled him. Simultaneously, the Iraqi Arabs could confront the Syrian Arabs who were under Byzantine control. Nevertheless, he considered it prudent to maintain a Persian garrison under the Hira king's command to suppress any rebellious Arabs. Following Juzaima's death around 268 AD, Amr bin Adi bin Nasr al-Lakhmi was designated king by the Persian ruler Shapur bin Ardashir. Amr became the first Lakhmid monarch to govern Hira until the Persians installed Quaid bin Paras, during whose reign emerged someone named Mazdak, who advocated moral libertinism in society. Quaid and numerous subjects adopted Mazdak's faith and even urged the Hira king, Al-Munzir bin Ma'az-Sama, to follow suit. When the latter, due to his dignity and honor, refused their commands, Quaid removed him and appointed Harith bin Amr bin Hajar al-Kindi, who had accepted Mazdakite beliefs. As soon as Khosrow Anushirvan succeeded Quaid, he, despising Mazdak's teachings, executed Mazdak and numerous adherents, reinstated Munzir to Hira's throne, and ordered Harith's arrest. Harith fled to the Kalb tribe where he lived out his days. Al-Munzir bin Ma'az-Sama's descendants retained the crown for an extended period until a new man bin al-Munzir assumed power. Due to slander spread by Zaid bin Adi al-Abadi, the Persian monarch became enraged with a new man and summoned him to court. A new man secretly approached Hani bin Masudi, the Shaiban tribal leader, entrusting his possessions and family to his care, then appeared before the Persian king, who immediately imprisoned him where he died. Khosrow then appointed Ayas bin Qabisa at Ta'i as Hira's ruler. Ayas was instructed to demand that Hani bin Masudi surrender and Numan's trust to Khosrow. During the tribal migrations, certain branches of Quaid-e-Azam arrived at Syria's frontiers where they established themselves. These groups descended from the lineage of Sulay bin Halwan, whose descendants included the sons of Dujam bin Sulay, known as Ad-Dujameh. These Quaid-e-Azam clans were employed by the Byzantines to defend Byzantine territories against both nomadic Arab raiders and Persian forces, and maintained self-governance for a significant period reportedly spanning the entire 2nd century AD. Among their most renowned rulers was Ziyad bin al-Habula. Their dominion, however, ended when they were defeated by the Ghassanids, who were subsequently granted viceregal authority over Syria's Arab populations and established their headquarters at Dumad al-Jandal. This arrangement persisted until the Battle of Yarmouk in 13 AH. Their final monarch, Jabala bin al-Ayyam, converted to Islam during the caliphate of the commander of the faithful, Umar bin al-Khattab, R. Muhadrat Tariq al-Yumam al-Islamiyya 1/34, Tariq Ard al-Quran 2/80-82, Re-Triclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Ishmael, AWS, held governance over Mecca and guardianship of the sacred sanctuary during his entire life. Following his death at age 137, his two sons, Nabet and Kedar, inherited his position. Subsequently, their maternal grandfather, Mu'adh bin Amr al-Jurumi assumed control, thereby transferring Mecca's leadership to the Jurhum tribe. Despite preserving an honored status with minimal actual power for Ishmael's descendants due to their father's contributions in constructing the holy sanctuary, they maintained this position until Jurham's decline shortly before Nebuchadnezzar's emergence. Ibn Hisham 1 of 111. The Adnanite political influence had begun establishing stronger foundations in Mecca, evidenced by the fact that during Nebuchadnezzar's initial Arab invasion at Dadi Irq, the Arab leadership was not from Jurhum. Kalb Jazirat al-Arab, page 230. During Nebuchadnezzar's second invasion in 587 BC, the Adnanites fled in terror to Yemen, while Burmia and Nabi escaped to Syria with Ma'ad. When Nebuchadnezzar's pressure diminished, Ma'ad returned to Mecca to discover only Jersham bin Jalhama remaining from the Jurhum tribe, whose daughter Mu'anna became Ma'ad's wife and later bore him a son named Nizar. Rahmathul lil Alameen, 2/48. Due to harsh living conditions and poverty prevailing in Mecca, the Jurhum tribe began mistreating the holy sanctuary's visitors and appropriating its wealth, which provoked anger and animosity from the Adnanites, descendants of Bakr bin Abd Manaf bin Kinana. With assistance from the Quaid-e-Azam tribe that had settled in the nearby region called Mar-e-Zizaran, they attacked Jurhum and expelled them from Mecca, transferring authority to Quaid-e-Azam in the mid-2nd century AD. Before departing Mecca, Jurhum sealed the Zamzam well, flattened its location, and concealed numerous items within it. According to Ibn Ishaq, the renowned historian, Amr bin al-Harith bin Mu'adh al-Jurumi reportedly buried 2 golden gazelles along with the black stone and abundant jewelry and weapons in Zamzam before their sorrowful departure to Yemen. Ibn Hisham 1/114-115. Ishmael's era is estimated to have occurred around the 20th century BC, indicating that Jurhum remained in Mecca for 21 centuries and maintained dominion there for approximately 20 centuries. Following Jurham's defeat, the Quaid-e-Azam tribe seized exclusive control over Mecca. The Madar tribes, however, retained 3 privileges. The first, guiding pilgrims from Arafat to Muzdalifah and subsequently from Mina to the Aqaba stoning site. This authority belonged to the Al-Ghath bin Murrah family, one of the branches of Elias bin Madar, who were designated Sofa. This privilege stipulated that pilgrims could not begin casting stones at Al-Aqaba until a member of the Sofa initiated the ritual. After completing the stoning ceremony and preparing to depart Mina Valley, Sofa representatives positioned themselves on both sides of Al-Aqaba, and no one could proceed beyond that point until the Sofa men passed through first, clearing the path for the pilgrims. Following Sofa's extinction, the Sa'd bin Zaid Manat family from the Tamim tribe assumed this responsibility. The second, Al-Afada, departing for Mina after Muzdalifah, on the morning of sacrifice, which was the duty of the Adwan family. The third, postponement of the sacred months, which was the obligation of the Tamim bin Adi family from Bani Kinana. Quaid-e-Azam's dominion over Mecca endured for 3 centuries, during which the Adnanites dispersed throughout Najd and the regions of Bahrain and Iraq, while minor Quraysh clans remained around Mecca's periphery. These were Halul, Haram, and certain Kinana families. They possessed no special status in Mecca or regarding the sacred house until Qusay bin Kilab emerged, whose father reportedly died during his infancy, and whose mother subsequently wed Rabi'a bin Haram from the Bani Udra tribe. Rabi'a relocated his wife and her child to his territory near Syria's borders. When Qusay reached adulthood, he returned to Mecca, which was governed by Halil bin Habsha from Quaid-e-Azam, who gave Qusay his daughter Haba in marriage. Following Halil's demise, conflict erupted between Quaid-e-Azam and Quraysh, resulting in Qusay's seizure of Mecca and the sacred house. Ibn Hisham 1/117. The causes of this conflict have been explained in 3 accounts. The first, observing his descendants' proliferation, his wealth's increase, and his status's elevation after Halil's death, Qusay believed himself more qualified to assume Makkah's leadership and sacred house guardianship than the Khuzai and Bani Bakr tribes. He also maintained that Quraysh were the legitimate leaders of Ishmael's progeny. Consequently, he discussed with certain Quraysh and Kinana men his intention to remove Khuzai and Bani Bakr from Makkah. They favored his proposal and pledged their support. The second, Khuzai asserted that Halil requested Qusay to assume Al-Kaba's custodianship and Makkah's governance following his death. The third, Halil granted the Kaaba service rights to his daughter Haba and designated Abu Gabshan al-Khuzai as her representative in this matter. After Halil's death, Qusay purchased this privilege for a wineskin full of wine, which generated discontent among Khuzai members who attempted to prevent Qusay from obtaining sacred house custodianship. Nevertheless, with Quraysh and Kinana assistance, he succeeded in gaining control and even completely expelled Khuzai from Makkah. Rahmatul Alamin 255, regardless of the actual circumstances, the entire conflict culminated in Sofa losing their aforementioned privileges, the expulsion of Khuzai and Bakr from Makkah, and the transfer of Makkah's governance and sacred sanctuary guardianship to Qusay. This occurred following intense warfare between Qusay and Khuzai that caused significant losses on both sides, followed by reconciliation and arbitration by Yamur bin Awf from the Bakr tribe. His verdict confirmed Qusay's legitimacy to rule Makkah and oversee the sacred house, absolved Qusay of responsibility for Khuzai bloodshed, and imposed blood compensation upon Khuzai. Qusay's authority over Makkah and the sacred house commenced in 440 AD. Granting him and subsequently Quraysh complete dominion over Makkah and uncontested guardianship of the sacred house, to which Arabs from throughout Arabia journeyed to pay tribute. Qusay summoned his relatives to Makkah and distributed land among them, providing Quraysh with residential areas there. An-Nuzay, along with the Safwan, Adwan, and Murrah bin Awf families, retained the same privileges they had possessed prior to his arrival. Ibn Hisham 1-124. A notable accomplishment attributed to Qusay was establishing the An-Nadwa House, a council hall, on Al-Kaaba Mosque's northern side, serving as a gathering venue for Quraysh. This institution proved highly beneficial to Quraysh as it ensured consensus among them and facilitated amicable resolution of their disputes. Ibn Hisham 1-125, Akbar al-Kiram page 152. Qusay nevertheless possessed the following leadership privileges and distinctions. Number 1, presiding over An-Nadwa house assemblies where deliberations concerning critical matters were held and matrimonial agreements were proclaimed. Number 2, the banner. He held exclusive authority over matters pertaining to warfare initiation. Number 3, Al-Kaba's guardianship. He alone was authorized to unlock its entrance and bore responsibility for its maintenance and security. Number 4, supplying water to pilgrims. This involved filling containers with date and raisin-sweetened water for pilgrims' consumption. Number 5, nourishing pilgrims. This meant preparing meals for pilgrims lacking sufficient resources. Qusay even levied an annual tribute on Quraysh, collected during pilgrimage season, to fund this provisioning. Ibn Hisham 1-130. It is remarkable that Qusay distinguished Abd Manaf, one of his sons, with honor and prominence despite him not being the eldest. Abd ad-Dar held that position, and assigned him responsibilities including An-Nadwa house leadership, banner custody, Al-Kaaba guardianship, and pilgrim water and food provision. Since Qusay's actions were considered beyond reproach and his commands absolute, his passing did not trigger disputes among his sons, though it later sparked conflicts among his grandsons. Upon Abd Manaf's death, his sons began quarreling with their cousins, Abd ad-Dar's descendants, which might have caused division and warfare throughout the entire Quraysh tribe, had it not been for a peace agreement redistributing positions to preserve food and water provision for Abd Manaf's sons, while maintaining An-Nadwa house, the banner, and Al-Kaaba guardianship for Abd ad-Dar's descendants. Abd Manaf's sons, however, drew lots for their duties, consequently assigning food and water responsibility to Hashim bin Abd Manaf. Upon his death, his brother Al-Muttalib bin Abd Manaf assumed the role, followed by Abd al-Muttalib bin Hashim, the Prophet's grandfather, whose sons maintained this position until Islam's advent, during which Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib held the charge. Ibn Hisham 1/129-179. Numerous other positions were distributed among Quraysh members to establish the foundation of a new democratic miniature state with governmental departments and councils resembling contemporary ones. Listed below are some of these offices. Number 1, divination with idle lots was assigned to Bani Jumah. Number 2, recording offerings and sacrifices, dispute resolution, and related matters were entrusted to Bani Sam. Number 3, advisory functions were given to Bani Asad. Number 4, management of blood compensation and penalties was handled by Bani Taym. Number 5, carrying the tribal standard was the duty of Bani Umayyah. Number 6, military affairs, infantry, and cavalry would fall under Bani Maqsam's jurisdiction. Number 7, Bani Adi would serve as external arbitrators. Tariq Ard al-Quran 2/104-106. We have previously discussed the Cottonite and Adnanite migrations and Arabia's partition between these two tribes. Tribes residing near Hira fell under the Arabian ruler of Hira's authority, while those inhabiting the Syrian borderlands were subject to the Arabian Ghassanid monarch's dominion, a form of subjugation that was essentially nominal rather than substantive. Nevertheless, those dwelling in the remote interior deserts maintained complete independence. These tribes actually had leaders selected by the entire tribe, constituting a semi-governmental system founded on tribal unity and collective concerns regarding territorial and property defense. Tribal chieftains possessed autocratic authorities comparable to those of monarchs and received absolute loyalty and submission during both conflict and peacetime. Competition among kinsmen for leadership, however, frequently motivated them to surpass one another in hospitality, displays of magnanimity, wisdom, and valor solely to exceed their competitors and achieve renown among the people, particularly poets who served as official representatives of that era. Tribal leaders and chiefs held special entitlements to war plunder, including a quarter of the spoils, whatever they selected for themselves, items discovered during their return journey, or even the remaining undivided booty. The 3 Arab territories bordering foreign lands experienced profound weakness and subordination. The inhabitants were divided into either masters or servants, governors or subjects. Masters, particularly the foreigners, claimed every privilege, servants bore nothing but obligations. In essence, despotic authoritarian rule resulted in violation of subjects' rights, ignorance, persecution, inequity, injustice, and suffering, transforming them into people wandering in darkness and ignorance, essentially fertile territory that yielded its produce to rulers and powerful individuals who lavishly squandered it on their pleasures and enjoyments, whims and desires, tyranny and aggression. The tribes residing near these territories were wavering between Syria and Iraq, while those dwelling within Arabia were fragmented and controlled by tribal hostilities and ethnic and religious conflicts. They possessed neither a monarch to maintain their sovereignty nor an ally to consult with or rely upon during difficulties. The Hijaz rulers, however, were held in high regard and reverence by the Arabs and were viewed as both governors and attendants of the religious center. Hijaz leadership was, in essence, a combination of secular and official authority along with religious guidance. They governed among the Arabs through religious leadership and consistently maintained exclusive custodianship of the holy sanctuary and its vicinity. They attended to the needs of al-Kaaba visitors and were responsible for implementing Abraham's laws. They even established offices and departments resembling those of modern parliaments. Nevertheless, they were too feeble to bear the enormous responsibility, as became clearly evident during the Abyssinian, Ethiopian, invasion.